You wake up one morning and realize something strange has happened. The room feels smaller. The walls press in tighter. The air feels thick with hesitation. You don't know when it began, this slow creeping contraction of your spirit, but the truth is undeniable. You've been shrinking to fit the expectations that never asked for your fullness, shrinking to make others comfortable, shrinking to hide parts of yourself too fierce to be accepted, shrinking because the weight of your own potential felt too heavy to carry. But here is the secret that no one tells you. Every time you shrink, the world around you contracts with you. The horizon dims. The opportunities recede. The connections grow faint. The spaces that once seemed vast and welcoming close in, until you're trapped in a cage made not of iron, but of your own limits. This is the invisible prison of the shrinking soul, the place where dreams go to suffocate, where courage is traded for complacency, and where the extraordinary is sacrificed on the altar of fear. But the paradox is simple. When you stop shrinking, the world starts expanding. Carl Jung taught us that the shadow is not just darkness, but also the source of our vitality and creativity. The parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or dilute are the same parts waiting to erupt into brilliance. When you stop shrinking, you no longer hide your shadow, you own it. You bring the hidden into the light and transform it into power. And this transformation does not just change you, it shifts the entire universe around you. This expansion begins with psyphoria, the intoxication of false escape. It is the mental haze that convinces you shrinking is safer than standing tall. You tell yourself stories to justify your smallness. I'm not ready. I'm not enough. They won't understand. Psyphoria is a drug, numbing you from the pain of growth and the terror of visibility. But its price is steep. Every moment spent shrinking is a moment lost from your greatness. Your mindset is the battleground. The choice to expand or contract lies not in your circumstances, but in your internal narrative. Are you the victim of your story or the author? Do you see limitation or possibility? Most live by inherited beliefs that tell them to stay small. But a new mindset demands you rewrite those codes. It requires you to believe in the uncomfortable truth that growth demands discomfort. That expansion means breaking bones, not just bodies, but identities, habits, illusions. Belief is your compass in this storm. But it is not blind faith. It is a disciplined commitment to the vision of who you are becoming. When you believe in your potential louder than your doubts, you begin to act differently. You raise your standards. You refuse to settle. You embrace the discipline of showing up fully, even when you feel like shrinking back. Clarity follows belief like dawn follows night. When you clear the fog of hesitation, you see the path not as a line, but as a field full of possibility and choice. You recognize that shrinking is a habit and expansion is a practice. Every day, every decision is an invitation to stretch beyond your comfort, to say yes to the parts of you yearning to breathe. Vision sharpens in the crucible of this clarity. It is no longer a vague dream, but a call to action, one that demands courage and persistence. You see your purpose as the horizon of your expansion, the reason you refuse to shrink any longer. Purpose fuels your movement forward, anchoring you when the world tries to shrink you back into conformity. Discipline is your ally, not your enemy. It is the muscle that grows when you resist the urge to contract, the sacred practice of honoring your worth through every choice. Discipline means choosing growth over ease, authenticity over acceptance, presence over avoidance. Action translates discipline into reality. It is the sacred leap from thought to deed. When you stop shrinking, you no longer wait for permission. You no longer need the world's approval. You step into your power with deliberate, fearless action, expanding your influence and creating space for others to do the same. Gratitude transforms expansion from a goal into a state of being. When you appreciate how far you've come, even as you stretch into the unknown, you fuel your resilience. Gratitude rewires your brain to notice abundance, amplifying the expansion you cultivate in yourself and others. Adaptability ensures that your expansion is sustainable. The world will resist your growth with chaos and uncertainty. But when you adapt, when you bend without breaking, you continue to expand, learning from every setback and evolving beyond every limit. Resilience is the heartbeat of this journey. It is the sacred refusal to contract in the face of pain, rejection, or failure. Resilience means rising each time you fall, expanding your capacity to endure and thrive. Learning is the compass that keeps your expansion aligned with your highest self. It demands humility, the courage to admit what you don't know, and the hunger to grow beyond it. Learning transforms every experience into wisdom, fueling the endless journey from shrinking to expansion. And so the cycle continues. Belief breeds clarity. Clarity births vision. Vision demands discipline. Discipline inspires action. Action deepens gratitude. Gratitude fosters adaptability. Adaptability builds resilience. Resilience sparks learning. And through it all, your world expands. This is the law of the growing soul. It is the cosmic rhythm that calls you not to shrink in fear, but to rise in truth. When you stop shrinking, the world does start expanding, because expansion is your nature. It is the pulse of life itself beating in your veins. So stand tall, speak loud, breathe deep, expand unapologetically, because the world isn't waiting for your permission. It's waiting for your presence. And when you show up in your full, unshrunk self, everything around you begins to swell with possibility. This is your birthright. This is your revolution. And this is just the beginning. Expansion demands sacrifice, not of your dreams, but of the comfort zones you once clung to like lifeboats in a storm. These zones, familiar, safe, but suffocating, have kept you tethered to a version of yourself that no longer serves your evolution. You must let them go, not gently, but decisively, because every grip on the old shrinks the future you can claim. Look closely at your fears. They are the guardians of your boundaries, the invisible walls constructed from years of conditioning, pain, and avoidance. But those walls are illusions. They are echoes of past failures masquerading as future threats. To expand, you must confront these fears not as enemies, but as guides. You must step into the fire of uncertainty, knowing that it is in that very fire your true form is forged. This path is not for the faint-hearted. Nietzsche warned us that he who climbs upon the highest mountains laughs at all tragedies, real or imaginary. To climb means to endure the cold, the isolation, the doubt. It means embracing solitude not as loneliness, but as the crucible of transformation. The world may call you arrogant, reckless, or disconnected. But remember, every pioneer was once misunderstood. Your expansion disrupts the equilibrium of those around you. It challenges their narratives and threatens their comfort. Some will resist you, others will envy you. But this is the price of growth, a test of your resolve and your commitment to your own becoming. You cannot shrink to appease others without losing yourself. Choose instead to stand unwavering, a beacon of possibility amidst the fog of conformity. As you expand, your energy radiates beyond your immediate sphere. It touches lives, ignites dreams, and unravels limitations in others. Expansion is contagious. It is the ripple effect of courage multiplied. When you refuse to shrink, you invite others to rise. You become the catalyst for a collective awakening that transcends individual ambition. But with great expansion comes great responsibility. You must cultivate discernment to navigate the influx of opportunities and challenges. Not everything that beckons is aligned with your highest good. Learn to say no with grace and yes with conviction. Guard your energy as the most precious resource, for it fuels the sustainability of your ascent. Embrace the paradox that expansion requires both fierce determination and profound surrender. Determination to pursue your vision against all odds. Surrender to the flow of life's wisdom that often unfolds beyond your control. This dynamic tension is where mastery lives not in rigid control, but in the dance between will and trust. Remember the lessons of resilience. Setbacks are not failures, but invitations to recalibrate. Each challenge refines your strategy, deepens your character, and expands your capacity to thrive. Resilience transforms scars into stories of triumph that inspire and empower. Celebrate every milestone with gratitude, for gratitude anchors expansion in humility and joy. It reminds you that wealth, whether of spirit, influence, or material, is not a destination, but a continuum of appreciation for growth itself. As you continue, commit to lifelong learning. Expansion is a journey without end, fueled by curiosity, openness, and the courage to confront your shadows. Let each lesson carve away what no longer serves, making space for the emergence of your fullest expression. In this relentless unfolding, your world will not merely expand, it will transform. The limits you once accepted will dissolve, revealing a landscape of infinite possibility shaped by the unshrunk version of you. This is the sacred promise of growth. Stand now on the edge of your new reality. The universe is not waiting, it is responding. It expands and contracts with your courage, your vision, your presence. So do not hesitate, do not retreat, do not shrink. Step forward fully, boldly, unapologetically. Because when you stop shrinking, the world begins to expand, and in that expansion, your life becomes a testament to the power of becoming more than you ever imagined possible. With every step into expansion, you awaken an ancient truth buried beneath layers of doubt and conformity, that your capacity is boundless, limited only by the smallness you have allowed to cage your spirit. This realization shatters the illusion that growth is a destination reachable by incremental change alone. Growth is a rebellion, a tearing down of old selves, a revolution against the comfortable narratives that once kept you safe but now suffocate your soul. You become an alchemist, transmuting fear into fuel, hesitation into momentum, and limitation into liberation. The old scripts, the voices that said, not enough, too late, or impossible, begin to dissolve in the heat of your unfolding. You no longer negotiate with these ghosts. You dissolve their power by refusing to engage. This is not denial, it is sovereignty. The power to define your own reality, independent of the echoes of the past. But expansion demands more than internal revolution. It requires you to confront the external forces that resist your rise. The cultural narratives, systemic barriers, and relational dynamics that have kept generations confined in cycles of smallness. You must develop not only inner strength, but also strategic wisdom, knowing when to push, when to pivot, and when to protect your energy fiercely. This is the domain of discernment, the guardian of your growth. Discernment is the laser focus that cuts through distractions, the compass that aligns your efforts with your highest trajectory. It enables you to say no to enticing distractions that dilute your power, and yes to the challenging opportunities that accelerate your expansion. Without it, even the most determined can be led astray, losing sight of their true path. As you wield discernment, your influence begins to radiate with authenticity. People are drawn not to your perfection, but to your raw, unfiltered humanity, your willingness to show up, to be vulnerable, and to lead with integrity. Your presence becomes a catalyst for others, inspiring them to confront their own shrinking and choose expansion. You become part of a growing movement, a collective pulse, awakening to the possibility of more. Yet, with influence comes responsibility. Your expanded self is now a steward of legacy. Every choice you make sends ripples into the future, shaping the narrative not just of your life, but of those who follow. This responsibility grounds your expansion in purpose, reminding you that growth without contribution is hollow. True expansion elevates others. It is generosity in motion. To sustain this trajectory, You cultivate resilience, a fortress forged in the fires of challenge. Resilience is more than endurance. It is the art of rebounding with greater clarity and strength. It teaches you to welcome adversity as a teacher rather than a tormentor, to embrace the cyclical nature of growth with grace. Resilience ensures that your expansion is not fleeting, but enduring, capable of weathering storms without losing momentum. In this dance of expansion, you also embrace adaptability, the willingness to evolve in response to life's shifting currents without losing the core of who you are. Adaptability is the sacred balance between holding fast to your vision and being flexible enough to navigate unforeseen terrain. It transforms uncertainty from a source of paralysis into a wellspring of creative possibility. Throughout this process, learning is your constant companion. The hunger to grow beyond your current limitations fuels your journey. You seek knowledge not as accumulation, but as transformation, integrating wisdom that expands your capacity to lead, create, and inspire. Learning propels you beyond complacency, sharpening your mind and enlivening your spirit. And so, expansion becomes your way of being, a continual unraveling of old constraints and an ever-deepening immersion into your authentic power. It is a dynamic unfolding where every breath, every choice, every challenge serves the sacred purpose of becoming more fully yourself. This is your revolution, your manifesto against limitation, your declaration that smallness is no longer an option. Because when you stop shrinking, you claim the infinite. You stretch beyond boundaries imposed by fear, doubt, and expectation. You break the chains of complacency, and in doing so, you invite the world to expand with you, to grow beyond its own limits, to rise into new dimensions of possibility. Your expansion is not just personal, it is cosmic. The unfolding of a universe within a single human soul. So step boldly into your vastness. Own the space you claim. Speak the truths you carry. Live with the fullness you were born to embody. Because the moment you stop shrinking, your world starts expanding. And that expansion is the beginning of everything you were meant to become. Expansion calls you into a new relationship with discomfort. The old you ran from pain, squeezed into shadows to avoid the heat of vulnerability. But now, discomfort is not a foe. It is a sacred guide. It is the pulse beneath the surface, signaling that growth is happening, that boundaries are stretching, that you are stepping beyond the familiar into the wild terrain of transformation. You learn to lean into discomfort, to sit with it without flinching, to listen deeply to the messages it carries. This is where courage is forged, not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. You no longer shrink in the face of challenge. Instead, you expand through it, knowing that every contraction of old fear is met with an equal and greater expansion of new strength. This practice rewires your nervous system, retraining your body and mind to expect growth rather than stagnation. You move from survival mode into creation mode. Your energy shifts from defense to offense. You become a force of nature, not because you avoid storms, but because you dance in the rain, mastering the rhythms of change. In this dance, you discover that expansion is inseparable from connection. To grow fully, you must reach beyond your isolation and engage with others not as mirrors of your fears, but as collaborators in evolution. Authentic relationships become the soil where your expansion takes root. They challenge you, hold you accountable, and amplify your impact. You no longer fear rejection because your worth no longer depends on external approval, but on internal allegiance. As you expand in connection, your influence grows not by manipulation or control, but through the undeniable power of presence and integrity. People feel your energy before they hear your words. They see your consistency before they understand your strategy. Your life becomes a lighthouse, guiding others through the fog of their own shrinking. Yet, expansion also requires surrender. The paradox is clear. To rise higher, you must let go of control. You must trust the unfolding process even when the path is unclear and the outcome uncertain. This surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that some forces shaping your growth are beyond your grasp, and that true mastery lies in navigating uncertainty with grace. In surrender, you find peace, peace that grounds your expansion in resilience rather than desperation, peace that sustains your vision through the inevitable cycles of doubt and discovery, peace that reminds you growth is not a race, but a rhythm, a continuous unfolding in harmony with the deeper currents of life. Your new life, born from this sacred interplay of courage, connection, and surrender, becomes a living testament to the power of expansion. It is a life unbound by old fears, unshackled from limiting beliefs, and alive with possibility. It is a life that calls forth the greatness hidden within you and beckons others to do the same. So stand now at the threshold of your becoming. Feel the vastness waiting beyond the narrow confines of your old self. Know that every act of expansion, every brave word spoken, every boundary set, every risk taken is a declaration of your sovereignty. When you stop shrinking, you do more than change your world. You transform it. You become the catalyst for an endless horizon of growth for yourself, for those around you, and for the generations yet to come. And in that infinite expansion, you find your truest freedom, your highest purpose, your greatest life. And as your world expands, so too does your sense of time, no longer a prison measured in deadlines and lost chances, but a vast ocean of possibility stretching endlessly before you. You begin to understand that expansion is not a sprint toward an endpoint, but a lifetime lived fully in every moment. Each breath becomes an invitation to grow, each decision a seed planted in the fertile soil of your unfolding self. You move away from scarcity thinking, the desperate clutching at limited resources, relationships, and moments, and into abundance consciousness. This shift reprograms your brain, rewires your nervous system, and recalibrates your soul. You stop competing for scraps and start commanding the banquet, not through force, but through the natural magnetism of one who knows their worth. This is where true power resides, not in domination or control, but in the ability to create space for yourself and others to flourish. When you expand, you do not push others down, you lift them up. You create ecosystems of growth, communities where collective expansion is the norm, and shared success is the currency. Your wealth multiplies exponentially because it is rooted in contribution, not consumption. And with this expansion comes an unprecedented clarity of purpose. No longer distracted by fleeting desires or external approval, you move with laser focus toward what truly matters. This clarity cuts through noise like a blade, revealing the essential actions that drive your evolution, and discard what drains your energy or dilutes your mission. But clarity is not a destination. It is a continuous sharpening. It demands ongoing self-inquiry and brutal honesty. You must constantly ask yourself, am I living aligned with my highest self? Am I growing into the full expression of my potential? Am I honoring the sacred responsibility that comes with expansion? These questions become your compass, guiding you through the wilderness of uncertainty. Discipline anchors this journey. It is the bridge between vision and reality, the daily devotion to the practices, habits, and choices that sustain your growth. Discipline is not punishment, but reverence for your own greatness. It is the quiet refusal to let comfort or distraction steal the promise of your future. Action flows naturally from this discipline, not frantic, desperate hustle, but deliberate, purposeful movement. Each step taken with intention becomes a building block in the architecture of your new life. Momentum gathers, and the invisible forces of alignment amplify your efforts, opening doors and creating pathways where none seemed possible. Gratitude becomes your heartbeat. It transforms expansion from a relentless pursuit into a joyful experience. Gratitude softens the edges of challenge, fills the gaps between milestones, and connects you deeply to the present moment. It is a sacred acknowledgement that every breath, every lesson, every victory is a gift. As you continue, adaptability ensures your evolution is resilient and sustainable. The world will continue to change, sometimes rapidly, sometimes unpredictably. Your willingness to flow, adjust, and innovate becomes your greatest asset. You do not resist the currents, you navigate them skillfully, turning obstacles into opportunities. Resilience fortifies your spirit against inevitable setbacks. It is the sacred grit that pushes you through adversity, the unbreakable thread that weaves your story into a tapestry of triumph. Resilience is born from the knowledge that every fall is a lesson, every scar a testament to your growth. And through it all, learning remains your constant companion. Not passive accumulation of facts, but the active integration of wisdom that shapes your evolution. You embrace humility, curiosity, and openness, knowing that mastery is a journey without end. This is the essence of expansion, a dynamic interplay of courage, clarity, discipline, gratitude, adaptability, resilience, and learning. It is a sacred dance where every step forward is a declaration of your refusal to shrink, your commitment to grow, and your promise to live fully. So stand now in the vastness of your becoming. Feel the infinite horizon stretching before you, waiting to be claimed. Know that the world expands and contracts with your courage and presence. When you stop shrinking, you unleash a force that transforms not just your life, but the entire landscape of possibility. And in that transformation, you discover the boundless power of your true self. This is your moment. This is your birthright. This is your expansion. So now the choice is yours. To keep shrinking into shadows that no longer serve you, or to step fully into the light of your own expansion. To let fear dictate the limits of your world, or to unleash the infinite possibilities waiting beyond those self-imposed walls. Know this: the moment you refuse to shrink, the world itself begins to widen before your eyes. Doors open not by chance, but by your courage. Connections deepen not by effort, but by your authenticity. Opportunities multiply not by desperation, but by your presence. You were never meant to fit inside the smallness prescribed to you. You were born to expand, to stretch beyond the confines of comfort and conformity, to claim the vastness of your potential, to live a life so wide, so deep, so unapologetically yours, that the universe has no choice but to bend toward you. So rise, stand tall in your truth. Speak with the voice that's been waiting to roar. Breathe in the boundless air of your becoming. Because when you stop shrinking, you don't just change your story, you change the world. And that world awaits the fullness of your expansion. Go claim it.